At the 2024 Paris Olympics, there were a ton of crazy storylines, performances, and downright fast swimming. And with all that going on, it's easy for some swims to get lost in the crowd. But there is one swim that no one is gonna forget anytime soon. Zhanle's 100 freestyle world record. This was one of, if not the greatest swims of the meet, and despite coming into these games as the reigning world record holder, I still feel like Pan was maybe a little underrated, especially when you compare it to the heights that he would reach. So, who is Pan Zhanle? While we all know Pan these days as the fastest 100 freestyler ever, he began his career on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. In 2019, at just 14 years of age, he won the Chinese Swimming Summer Championships in the 1500 free, clocking a time of 15:33:48. For context, one of America's biggest age group superstars right now is Luka Mijatovic. His 13-14 national age group record stands at 15:26:73. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Pan would switch his event focus to more of a sprint emphasis, and in 2021 would compete at the Chinese Olympic trials at the age of 16 with this new event lineup. At these trials, Pan would swim the 100, 200, and 400 freestyles. In the 200 and 400, he would go new personal bests of 148.53 and 355.35. Some pretty solid swims, but undoubtedly his best performance was in the 100 free. Pan placed second in the 100 free at these trials, stopping the clock in 48:74, just 3 100s behind the winning time. Despite this impressive performance from Pan, it unfortunately would not result in an Olympic berth for him, as his time was short of the World Aquatics A standard of 48:57, which would be required to swim the event. In September of that year, after the Olympic Games had passed, Pan would produce a new personal best of 48:59, showing a steady improvement. Shortly after that swim, Pan would attend the 2021 Short Course World Championships. At these Worlds, Pan would make it to the semifinals of the 100 free, finishing in 11th place. Pan was also on numerous Chinese relays. However, none of these relays managed to finish on the podium, as Pan left the meet without any medals, but with some experience on the international stage. The next year, we saw Pan in attendance at the 2022 World Championships, Pan's first major long course international meet. Pan's meet started with a big relay split in the prelims of the 400 free relay, as he anchored Team China with a 47.65. However, we wouldn't get to see Pan swim this relay in finals, as the team finished 10th out of the prelims. In the semifinals of the individual event, Pan would rip a new personal best of 47.65 to actually tie his relay split from day one. Not only did he tie his flying start time, this swim also tied the Chinese national record in the event from 2014, as well as earned Pan a spot in the final. Pan was slightly off of his new best time in the event final, but he did improve his placement, finishing in 4th, just 800s behind Josh Liendo in the bronze medal position. He would end his meet as a member of the 800 free relay, splitting a 145.71 as anchor in the final to provide China's fastest split by over 2 seconds as they finished in 8th. At the end of 2022, Pan once again made the trip to Short Course Worlds. Pan's best finish was in the 100 free, where he made it to the final after missing out in 2021. Here he placed 6th in a new personal best. Once again, despite a strong individual showing and being a key relay member for China, Pan would walk away without any hardware from this meet. Ahead of the 2023 World Championships at Chinese Nationals, Pan would showcase that he was still getting better and better. First of all, he lowered his personal best in the 50 free, 200 free, and 400 free. His time of 144.65 in the 200 free was particularly noteworthy, as it was the second fastest swim by a Chinese swimmer, behind only Sun Yang's 144.39 from 2017. That time still ranks Pan as the 15th fastest performer in the history of the event. But of course, Pan's 100 free was the biggest source of news at this meet, where he blasted a 47.22 to not only break his tie for the Chinese record in the event, but also take the Asian record for himself as well. In addition to setting records, that swim made Pan the 11th fastest performer in the history of the event. At the 2023 World Championships, Pan led off the 400 free relay with a 47.67 as China finished 4th in the event. In the 200 free, Pan did not advance beyond the semifinals as he was a bit off of his best time with a 146.05 to finish 10th. In his signature 100 free, it was another 4th place finish as Pan touched in a 47.43, a heartbreaking 1/100th behind Maxime Grousset's bronze medal winning time. In his final event of the meet, Pan would finally break his multi-meet curse of finishing just outside of the medals in the 400 medley relay. In this event, Pan would have the fastest split out of the entire field with a blistering 46.62, managing to outsplit the 100 freestyle champion at these Worlds, Kyle Chalmers. And his effort aided Team China in winning the silver, finally getting Pan an international medal. It was known in 2023 that many Chinese athletes would be focusing again on the Asian Games 2 months later in September, in addition to the World Championships, including Pan, which means that we would see him in action once more. On day 1, Zhanle blew the roof off of the natatorium as he ripped a 46.97 to become the 5th fastest swimmer in history and join the exclusive club of sub 47 second swimmers. While it's hard to follow up such an explosive day 1 swim like that, Pan did have some really good showings in the rest of his events. He won a silver medal in the 200 free, improving upon his world's time, and he won bronze medals in the 400 and 50 frees. In the 50, he broke 22 seconds for his first time. And that 50 time actually made Pan the first man to break 22 seconds in the 50 free, 47 seconds in the 100 free, and 145 in the 200 free. In the relays, Pan was just off of his world split in the 400 medley relay, going a still very fast 46.65, and leading off the 400 free relay, he nearly broke 47 seconds again, this time going a 47.06. In February of 2024, we had another long course world championships in Doha, which is certainly odd timing for the start of an Olympic year, and a result led to less top-end swimmers traveling for the meet. But anyone who thought that these worlds were gonna be unexciting were sorely mistaken on night 1 when Zhanle would make history. Leading off the 400 free relay, Pan split a massive 46.80 to break David Popovich's world record by 6/100ths. His improvement from the Asian Games came all on the front half as he was out nearly 2/10ths faster and came home only 2/100ths slower, which made all the difference in breaking that record. In addition to being a world record, this leadoff leg was also a key part of China's relay touching first in this relay, giving Pan his first ever world's gold. The very next morning, Pan swam the prelims of the 200 free, placing 38th in a 151.03. But after that, Pan was up again in the individual of the men's 100 free. After breaking the world record, would he have what it takes to win his first individual world's medal? Right from the start, Pan had the fastest opening 50, off of his world record split, but enough to get a lead. Through the second 50, Pan would hold on to that lead. A couple of swimmers closed slightly faster, but not by much, and it was all Pan needed to win gold, touching first in 47.53. Pan was also a member of China's 800 free relay. On the third leg, he dropped a big-time split of 143.90, China's fastest leg, and one that helped them to win another gold medal in a super close final. With China unfortunately missing the final of the 400 medley relay, that would be the end of Pan's Worlds, but he left with pretty much all you could hope for: 1 individual gold, 2 relay golds, and 1 world record. However, Pan doesn't seem capable of easing up, because he would make history once more at the Chinese Olympic trials. Before this meet, only 2 swimmers had ever broken 47 seconds more than once: Popovich swimming 46s twice at the 2022 European Championships, and after 2024 Worlds, Pan himself. himself. However, at the Chinese Olympic trials, Pan would equal his 46.97 from the Asian Games to become the first man to swim the 100 free in 46 seconds 3 separate times. Funnily enough, Popovich would also swim a third 46 a little while later, keeping these two in an interesting race with each other. But there was one thing that some people were concerned about. Could he swim that fast in an Olympic final? Remember the times that Pan would swim in Doha? He was very fast in the relay, but then much slower in the individual, and his other two 46-second swims came from comparatively less competitive fields at the Asian Games and the Chinese Olympic trials. This is something that we've seen before in David Popovich, who's capable of going very fast times at overall less competitive meets or even in the semifinals, but then gain some time in a final. The general consensus is that these two swimmers are much leaner than the other heavy hitters we've been seeing in this event. Now, this can help them greatly cut through the water at very high speeds, but in a final, when you have other big dudes making massive waves, they can be much more easily toppled in that turbulence. Since you are currently living in the future as you watch this video, then you are highly aware that this sentiment is about to age like milk, but it is a massive reason why I think Pan was somewhat underrated coming into Paris, especially compared to his already proven ability. And matters were not helped at all when news began to surface ahead of the games about a shallower than normal pool, which would add to the waviness in an Olympic final. On day one, Pan showed that he still could get the job done on relay duty. He led off China's 400 free relay once more and threw down a 46.92, a new Olympic record and the first ever flat start 46 at the Olympics. Once again, Pan swam the 200 free on the very next day, and once again missed the semifinal, placing 22nd with a 149.47. I am not entirely sure why Pan does this. He swam some very good 200 freestyles before, and it's not like he's forgotten how. He split a 143 in Doha and a 145 here in Paris as China finished 4th in that relay. My best guess is that he just cruises it in the morning after the 400 free relay to kind of stay in his race day routine, either that or to get another rep in the competition pool. Or he just really doesn't want to swim this event, in which case I respect him swimming it and not just leaving an empty lane. We had a little bit of a scare in the prelims of the 100 freestyle. Pan finished in a 3-way tie for 13th, just 1/100th ahead of Wang Sung-woo in 16th place. If he had gone just 200 slower, he would have been out of the semifinals entirely. In the semis, Pan left nothing to chance and made sure he safely made it back for the final, snagging the top seed in a 47.21. This was it, the Olympic final of the men's 100 freestyle, one of the most anticipated events in any Olympic Games, and with some of the fastest swimmers in history, it was looking to be a race for the ages. And it wasn't even close. Pan absolutely demolished this field. He immediately opened things up with a 3/10 lead in the first 50. All Pan had to do was hold off the field to win the gold, but he did one better and extended his lead, putting a body-length lead on the field to destroy the entire final and his world record. 46.40. That was the world record that Zhanle had just set in the men's 100 free, taking a massive 4/10 off of his own record. Pan's splits here are about as ridiculous as you would imagine for such an insane world record. He was out in a 22.28, just 200 slower than his world record split from Doha, but he made up for that and then some with a sizzling 24.12 on the back half. Out of the field in Paris, he had the fastest opening and the fastest closing splits, which resulted in one of the biggest margins of victory we've seen in this event in decades. David Popovich has long been known as a big-time back half swimmer, but Pan's Paris swim actually matched Popovich's second 50 from his world record swim down to the 100th. But while Popovich had to sacrifice some opening speed to come back so fast, Pan didn't need to, because if we flip things the other direction to Caleb Dressel and his 46.96 from 2019, we see that Pan was out 1/100th faster than Dressel. When you can beat one of the fastest ever swimmers over the first 50 and then go on to tie one of the fastest closers on the second 50, Well, no wonder the final time was so fast. It would be very hard to top such a monumental swim like 46:40, but with one event to go, Pan would come surprisingly close to doing just that. In the 400 medley relay, Pan was obviously going to be China's anchor leg. China was looking strong all the way through this race, but after some major fly splits from Caleb Dressel and Maxime Grousset, Pan would be diving in third place. Could Pan get it done and make this relay the first to ever beat the Americans in this event at the Olympics? He got things off to a flying start, splitting a massive 21:57 on the first 50. After being down 3/4 of a second at the exchange, he had already moved up to second place, and from the individual event, we all know just how fast he can close. Over the next 50, Pan took the lead and then ran away with it, anchoring the relay to gold, snapping the American winning streak in the event. On that anchor leg, Pan split a mind-melting 45:92, becoming the first man to break 46 seconds on a relay split, and take the crown of the fastest ever split from Jason Lezak's legendary 46:06. Comparing the splits between these two relay legs, you can see that Lezak was out a touch faster than Pan, but Pan did what he does best on the second 50 and outsplit Lezak by enough to go by him in the all-time rankings. Pan's performance gets more impressive when you look at the reaction times, because Jason Lezak had an out-of-this-world relay exchange at 0.04 seconds, while Pan had a slightly slower 0.20 exchange. Pan would walk away from the 2024 Paris Olympics with 2 gold medals and 2 of the fastest swims we have ever seen. For my money, that 100 freestyle is the single greatest performance from these games. You could make the argument that a multi-event performance by the likes of a Summer McIntosh or a Leon Marchand is a better meet overall, but when it comes to a single event, it's 46:40 all the way. Taking 4/10 off of this record on its own is crazy enough. Consider the 1500 free, where Bobby Fink broke the world record, but by only 0.35 seconds, and that's the 1500 free. Add to that the fact that this record was stuck at 46.9 for over a decade before Popovich took even a tiny amount off of it, while blowing the doors wide open seems that much crazier to me. For me, the interesting question is this: can Pan drop this record even lower? Is it going to become a new standard of performance for him, or was it a once-in-a-lifetime swim? Well, only time will tell. I am super excited to see what Pan and the rest of the world will do in this event in the next coming years. Will it continue to get pushed lower and lower and lower, or is it going to stay around the same time? Let me know down below.